Hello, and welcome back to the Consult Dr. Michelle podcast, where our intention is to be a purveyor of hope, love, joy, and gratitude. Also, remember, if you hear something that you like, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Also, I want to emphasize that each episode is carefully crafted to delve into those topics that will bring about a life of hope, love, joy, and gratitude. And for that very reason, we are delving into the topic of resentment, how to release resentment so that one can receive love. First, we want to define resentment. What is resentment? Well, resentment is not a simple thing to describe. It's actually quite complex because there are powerful emotions that arise when someone has been wronged. Resentment is correlated to that feeling that emerges when a person is hurt or treated unfairly by someone's actions, words, or decisions. It is a deep seated feeling of bitterness and anger and indignation. And it's often directed towards a person, a group, or even oneself. Some of the characteristics of resentment include that injustice, being overwhelmed by feelings of injustice. Resentment often stems from a perceived injustice or mistreatment. The person experiencing resentment believes they have been wronged, and their negative emotions are fueled by this. Also, resentment can manifest itself as a long-time grudge. Resentment is more than a feeling of being annoyed or just disappointed. It tends to linger over time and can be difficult to abandon because it's deep rooted and people have a hard time letting go. Resentment can also be linked to replaying past events, thinking of those hurts or those wrongs over and over and over again, revisiting those instances that took place 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago, will cause a wedge to be made in one schemata that creates long term feelings of resentment. Resentment is dangerous because it has a negative impact on well being. Resentment can have detrimental effects on one's emotional and mental being because it increases stress and anxiety. It can even result in physical health issues. Resentment can create a cycle of negativity, an emotional, vicious cycle. Holding on to bitterness may lead to more negative emotions, that self-fulfilling prophecy. I had this negative experience. Now this looks similar to it. It's probably going to be a negative experience. And so one can get into a negative cycle. Resentment can also be linked to difficulty in letting go because it's not easy. It can be challenging because sometimes when a person is resentful, it can become a part of their identity where they continue to just heap on more and more unforgiveness. They may lose their ability to be able to let go and begin to heap on emotional baggage. So, how do we get past this? How do we get over unforgiveness? Well, some of the things a person can do is to be honest about how they're feeling. So, the first thing to do is to acknowledge the feeling, to recognize and accept that you are feeling resentful. When you suppress the emotions, that can lead to more significant issues. There's a scripture that says the truth sets you free, and it's so true. If you're feeling resentful, state it, acknowledge it. Then you can begin to do the work. And once you acknowledge that feeling, where is it coming from? Where is it emanating from? Identify the source. Reflect on the root cause of the resentment. And sometimes you may have to revisit it over and over again. Sometimes when you're resentful with yourself, you may think it was someone else, but you may really be upset with yourself for enduring that thing or accepting to do that thing or getting caught up in that situation with that person. Practicing empathy is a wonderful way to combat resentment. Try, sometimes with all of your might, to see the situation from the other person's perspective. Empathy can help foster understanding and can possibly make it easier to release negative feelings. Communication is key with releasing resentment. Communicate your feelings. If at all possible, express your feelings to the person or persons involved. Set boundaries. Establish healthy boundaries to protect yourself from further harm or resentment. Being proactive regarding what your hard no's are can help to alleviate experiencing resentment. Focus on self-care. Sometimes when a person is buried under feelings of resentment, they can lose sight of even taking care of themselves. So taking care of yourself emotionally, physically, mentally. And we've touched on this in previous episodes, practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you condone the behavior. It means that you let the behavior go. You let the person go. You freed yourself. There's a beautiful quote here from Nelson Mandela. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. When we're resentful and we can't let it go, we are the ones that are held hostage. Also, it takes practice. There's a beautiful scripture in the Bible where the disciples asked Jesus, how many times should we forgive? 7? They ask if the number is 7. And he responds and says, no, 70 times 7. Wow. And when you think about that, that means you don't count. You don't count the offenses. You don't count the instances where your toe gets stepped on. You don't count every single thing that is stated against you. You practice it over and over again so that you can release it, you can release them, and you can go on to your God-given purpose and focus on that. Release negative thoughts. When we're resentful and focused on that event that occurred that got us off track, we lose our focus on the things that matter. So release those negative thoughts. If needed, it may take support. Support from individuals that are thriving. Support from individuals that do not succumb to unforgiveness and resentment. So talk to that trusted family member that is thriving, that is wise, that has a thick skin, lots of self-confidence, and incredible emotional intelligence. And sometimes, if the grip is too strong, seek a coach or a therapist. Practicing mindfulness is another way to let go of the negative emotions. And so, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is staying present and aware of your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Mindfulness can help you observe your feelings without getting caught up in them. Mindfulness, if you're watching this actual podcast, you'll see this beautiful, beautiful image of the sea, and you'll see nature. You'll see the clouds. You'll see sand. That is what is happening right now. That incident, the offense, that took place prior to this. It's in the rear view mirror. It's not before you now. Also, engage in activities you enjoy. What do you like? What is beautiful to you? Right now, you're looking at a beautiful ocean. You're looking at the horizon. Appreciate that. Appreciate the things that you smell. Maybe you have an incredible aromatic candle at home. Maybe you enjoy painting, cooking, dancing, comedy. Do that. Take your mind away so that you are no longer held hostage to the people that caused the offense and the actual offense of yourself. And finally, reflect and learn. What can you learn from the situation? I often find that in those situations where I feel a twinge of resentment, that there was a moment where I was empowered to make a decision that could have added to the situation or detracted from it. So going forward, I know what I need to adjust. I know who I need to adjust my time with, how I interact, how I set boundaries, and how I state what my parameters are. I want to leave you with a story. There once lived two friends who had a severe falling out over a misunderstanding. Years passed, and they both harbored resentment towards each other. One day, they unexpectedly met, and instead of confrontation, they hugged and wept. They realized that their grudges had kept them apart for far too long. And in the embrace of forgiveness, their pain dissipated. May you, at this moment, release resentment. May you be present in this moment and release that person so that you can release yourself. May you embrace this very second and the moments to come. Thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you do need additional assistance, please seek out a professional to obtain additional support. Again, if you heard something that you like, please hit that subscribe button and be sure to share. Thank you.